this band that we're about to talk about, I don't know why I'm doing a suspense thing. It's called Urban Dance Theory. You don't care.
Everybody cares.
Yeah.
They love us. They want to hear every word we say.
Yeah. This band is how we met. Is the point I'm trying to get
I
to.
like to say we met by Craigslist.
We did meet on Craigslist.
Which is true. I'm going to start my story first.
You start, okay,
because
by all means.
Because I come first chronologically on this one.
You do, you were in the band first, yep.
So, I was married, and we had decided to move to San Diego. So I was in a couple of other bands, and we had decided to move. This was right during the housing crisis, and so we owned a house we were trying to sell. We could not sell it because the value of houses was rapidly dropping, and we kept chasing that value. Anyway, I told the bands that I was in that I was going to move, and after a while they said, you're leaving, let's go ahead and have you leave.
Right.
When are you going to leave? So I was not in any bands. And then the house didn't sell. We were stuck in the house. And basically I stayed in Denver. And I thought after a year of no performing, I was like, I need to join a band. It looks like I'm staying here in Colorado. So through Craigslist, I found this band that was auditioning for lead singers, and I went and auditioned, did my best, and then I got in, and I was super excited. I was like, oh my God, lead singer. I mean, it was the first band I was the lead singer of, honestly.
Oh, that's right.
Because I was the only lead singer. I co-founded The Fever,
which was a
wedding band. I was one of 2 female leads. Mm-hmm. And then from that, I got into Girls on Top, I was one of 3 female leads. But this one, I was going to be the lead singer of. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Anyway, I joined that band, I think early 2011 or so. I joined it right before I was going to go to Europe for 3 months. 3 weeks, not 3 months. And I left, and the guitar player was apparently so mad at me that he decided to quit. That's the story. Like,
is that the story? I knew you went to Europe around that time, but I didn't know that.
Well, he and I didn't get along anyway.
Oh, okay.
And I think he used that as an excuse. Like, this chick isn't going to be around for gigs for 3 whole weeks, so I'm out of here. I don't know. We never got along. I get along with most people. So anyway,
definitely.
He knew he was going to leave. So he ran his own guitar auditions. So he posted on Craigslist.
Which is pretty classy.
Yeah,
that's not like...
Most people don't do that.
They don't
replace themselves.
It's not really even expected that you do that.
Yeah. And you were, out of 10 people he auditioned, you were the only one who passed his bar.
Oh, I also didn't know that.
You didn't know that?
No.
He auditioned 10 guitar players.
Wow. Huh. Picking up from there...
You had just moved to Denver.
I had just moved to Denver, and moving is expensive, so I was in a real hurry to get any other income going that I could. I don't really know if it still is, but playing in cover bands definitely used to be a way you could make some decent side money. So I was looking for anything I could get, and was looking on Craigslist. And I actually got in touch with the original guitar player, the old guitar player. I was in Kansas or something. We weren't even here.
Oh, really?
And we, emailed a bit, and then I went, and I do remember I had to, audition just for him or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember much about
it. I really appreciate that, though, because I think he filtered out a lot of wannabes.
I mean, we've done auditions. I'm sure that
Auditions are the worst.
Yeah, they really are.
Open auditions to, the general public who responds on Craigslist are the worst.
Anyway, I was just ready to start playing, so I was kind of like, whatever, man. Urban Dance Theory was a top 40, straight up the middle, dance band, bar band, have a great time. Of course, you later in the night, you do your Sweet Child of Mines, and You Shook Me.
Always. There's always the journey at the end of the night. Oh, my God.
Oh, journey. Anyway, so I was happy to do it. And then he passed me, I guess. And I went to the original audition.
Yeah.
Which we have talked about before.
Yeah.
So I'd never met...
You were kind of creepy.
I'd never met... Did we talk about that?
We did last episode.
We did. That's why it was familiar. Yeah. So
it wasn't creepy. It was just that I'd never been accustomed to a guitar player paying so much attention to me as a lead singer.
And I find that odd because that's my entire job.
And that was what helped me develop as a singer. If you recall, the first year of gigs or so that we had in Urban Dance Theory, I didn't have confidence as a lead singer yet, and I would look at you all the time, and you were always there for me. If I looked over at you, you were already looking at me. And I could like ground myself.
I'm a side guy. That is my entire job. Like that's. It's weird to me that
It was like somebody to just grab onto, literally, just like by looking at you.
Yeah, I went to the audition, and it was at Chris's house. Chris, super nice guy.
Chris Young,
really cool bass player, in my opinion. And at the audition, it's funny, we've talked about this. I assumed, not that you were like dressed up or anything, but just from your voice and the way you carried yourself, I was like, oh, this is someone who, like me, has been in music their whole life. And I assumed you had probably toured and you were probably someone who'd been on a record label. Like, I figured you were...
And this was 2011, so I had taken my first voice lesson 5 years before that.
That is so
funny.
And
I had started my first band 2 years before that.
I completely assumed, oh, this lady's like, just like me. Probably did some touring and,
Pulled the wool over your eyes. Likewise, when I started playing bass for Urban Dance Theory, you thought I'd been playing for quite some time.
Right, that's right. That's right.
And I'd been playing for, let's see, if we started having me play bass in UDT around maybe 2013, 14.
Right. So,
I'd only been playing for a couple years, I think.
Yeah, boy, we went through a lot of stuff. So anyway, that's how we met originally.
Yeah, so now stories from UDT.
And we started doing gigs. We jumped in. I know for a fact that my first full gig with you guys, because I did come see you.
You saw us at Baker.
Right. Fix Your Sound.
I was so impressed because we were having some feedback issues, and you were just standing in the back, kind of watching us to like see what the show was about.
Yeah,
and you come up and you're like, I think it's about the 480 kilohertz, or I don't even know a number, 1200. I don't know what it was, but you're like, I think it's about at X kilohertz, and I was like, you could tell that by listening to it, and you're like, yeah. And you fixed it, and I was like, oh my god, you're a genius.
Yeah, I'm not.
Back then, I thought that was a genius thing.
Yeah,
I don't think it's so impressive anymore.
It's really not. It's
anyway.
Then
you joined,
and I know my first full gig was Big Snowstorm.
Was it Herman's?
No, I don't remember where it was. It wasn't Herman's. It was because Herman's was shorter. It was the first night that we did an entire night.
Oh.
And so I was driving home at 2 a.m. and it was snowing. And I had not really driven in snow all that much. And I do remember driving home at like 2
What part of town? Do you remember where that was?
I think we were in Baker, one of the Baker streets.
Okay.
DTC maybe.
Okay.
So a 30, 45-minute drive in good weather. UDT, pop band, top 40 band. Rolf, one of our favorite people.
What a wonderful person.
What a wonderful person.
Love Rolf Estrella.
He was the Stax of the band. He did backups, he did lead vocals, he did keys, he did rhythm guitar. He was the utility guy. Bill was the drummer and kind of band leader, did the booking. And stuff.
He handled a lot of that stuff.
And you were on lead vocals and I was playing guitar, lead guitar. And we had quite a cast of bass players.
Yeah, we went through. Chris Young left pretty early on. He went with Nate, the previous guitar player, to whatever band they were in.
Yeah.
And so then, who was our next bass player after that? Did we have anybody?
I think it might have been Zach.
Yes.
Yeah, my buddy Zach from Guitar Center.
Yeah, and I took a few lessons from Zach.
Killer bass player.
Yes, he was great.
Really tasty.
Why didn't he continue on with us?
I think he just got tired of doing the gigs.
The late night thing.
Yeah. Because we were, for context, UDT played 4-hour gigs, and very often we played...
We did 9:30 to 1:30 a lot.
9:30 to 1:30 a lot, and usually maybe 6 to 10 or 12 nights a month.
Yeah, and running our own sound.
Yeah,
too.
so it was it was a hardworking band. So we had Zach, and then we met our best friend in the world, Tyler.
Nope, I was bass player next.
Oh, you were bass player next. Okay, I got that out of order.
Yeah, because Tyler was the last bass player, right?
He was, because we quit after that. Yeah.
I know. Yeah, so after Zach, we were like, hey, we could make more money if we were just a 4-piece.
Right, and then so you played bass.
I played bass and sang for a year or so, and then... It's just not as good as it could be.
Yeah.
I mean, because I was playing bass part of the time. You were playing bass part of the time. We had bass on tracks for some of the songs.
Right, we did.
And it was just a pain in the butt. So
yeah, it was too much.
We decided to just get a bass player. And that was where we met Tyler Morris. Who's
Tyler Morris, we've talked about. We did he hasn't been on this podcast. We've been on Murder by Death's podcast.
Yeah,
we were guests on So Tyler Plays with Murder by Death, and that's where we met him. Boy, I still remember meeting him and just being like, we were just talking about how much auditions suck, and we did this open audition with like 10 bass players.
Yeah, we did. We had 2 different nights, and we had like 5 people a night.
And he was the guy, he was young and he was green, and...
But he did his homework.
And he'd actually really learned the tunes,
Yeah.
and he got all the details. And I think I remember talking to you in the hallway after those auditions. I was like, I think that guy's like gonna do something. Like,
Yeah.
he's the real deal. Like, he's so green. I mean, you know, it's 25 or 23, but like, just really green. But it was like, okay, he's...
You can tell when someone's got that drive and that potential. So the first thing that comes to mind when I think about like crazy stuff with UDT is we used to play at Baker Street Pub, Belmar, quite a bit. I mean, we played at DTC in Westminster, but Belmar, which was an awful load-in because it was like through the restaurant among tables to this tiny stage that would basically only fit the drummer. So it was like the drummer and then me on the riser, and then I think everybody else had to be off stage.
Yeah, we were on
Off the riser to the side. People would dance and get crazy, and we had someone knock over the PA main, which then knocked over the keyboard stand and the keyboard also one time.
It is, and those were the QSCs.
Those were heavy,
which are 90 pounds apiece. So
yeah. Did we keep playing?
We did keep playing, and it's amazing that no one was killed.
Yeah, that one was.
Someone just slammed right into the speaker stand, and it went over, and it wiped out Rolf's rig, and you know we just kept going and put it back together.
There was the time that I picked you up to go to a gig. And I think I took my keyboard.
You were playing keys on some stuff.
Okay, so we had 2 keyboards.
Right.
Okay, so I took my keyboard out of the car.
I totally remember this. Yeah.
To load your gear in, and I forgot to put my keyboard back in the car.
Yeah, and
then we drove to Colorado. I left it on the grass, and we drove to Colorado Springs and unpacked. And I was like, "Where's my keyboard?"
That was.
And that was gone.
And of course it was.
I think I went to a Guitar Center and bought a new keyboard that night and got back in time for the gig.
Yeah.
I bought the same keyboard. I just dashed to a Guitar Center in Colorado Springs. So there was that.
Yeah.
There was...
there's so many. Dude.
Colorado Springs is
Colorado
the one full
Springs
of stories.
Is wild. Let's tell some Colorado Springs stories. Number one, maybe my favorite. We would play down there and get hotel rooms and then play, like we'd play Friday and then Saturday. We're in the hotel room, we're hanging out after the show. Rolf's like trying to get the TV to work. He can't get the TV to work with the remote. Like it won't turn the TV on. And he's like, what is going on? Opens up the remote and someone has not only stolen the batteries, they stuffed it with cigarette butts and then closed the remote back up. I have a picture of it, I swear to God. Literally.
What were they thinking?
What could they have been thinking? So it was just, the remote was just full of cigarette butts. And which, by the way, it won't work when it's filled with cigarette butts. That is just, that story, by the way, if you want to know, Colorado Springs is like.
Well, there's that plus 2 other stories I've got.
Yeah. It's the headquarters of Focus on the Family, and
there was one of our fans who would come to see us.
Oh, I was not thinking about that story.
You weren't thinking about that?
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Oh my gosh.
Oh, there was a girl with beautiful long red hair, very sexy woman, who would come to our shows, and she would flash my band members. You know, I'm the only woman in the band, and there were, 4 other guys. I mean, I'm front and center singing, but of course I'm like turning one way or the other sometimes. I'm like going over here and singing to these people. Anytime I would not be looking directly at her, she would flash the guys. Like top and bottom. She was flashing the bottom.
Yeah.
And apparently, I mean, I never saw it a single time, but apparently it was so many times that after a while the guys were like, yeah, I wish you would stop. It's just like 20 times a set. Like, constant.
Just so much. Like maybe 100 times a night sometimes.
Oh my gosh.
She'd be there for hours.
I didn't see it a single time.
Yeah. It's the weirdest thing. And then we were playing a gig at a casino, and she was there with her mom.
No.
Yeah.
What?
Later.
I don't remember this.
Later in UDT, we were doing a gig at a casino. It was like 2 or 3 years later.
Huh.
And we hadn't played the Ritz in a while and whatever, and that was an awkward Hey, how you doing?
I'm sure she did not flash you that night.
She didn't know. Yeah. But also, Colorado Springs, we got attacked by a zombie in Colorado Springs.
We did. We got attacked by a for real zombie.
For real zombie. What had we done? We'd gone to Garden of Gods. Was it we were coming back from Garden of the Gods?
No, we went to get coffee somewhere.
Oh, we just
So
went
this
to
was
get
a
coffee.
two-nighter. We were there for Friday and Saturday,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we'd stayed overnight. And you and I decided to go out for coffee Saturday afternoon before the
Right.
gig. Just to get out of the hotel and do something.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe we went to Garden of the Gods. I don't know. But we went. I do remember we went to a coffee shop.
Right.
So we were driving back to the hotel, and we were going down this residential street.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a truck in front of us, and it stopped for no apparent reason in front of us. And I was like, "What is going on?"
Yeah.
And then suddenly it veered left and screamed down the road.
It like drove through a lawn.
Did it?
Yeah, it like drove through a lawn and then like went screaming down the road. And we're like sitting there going like, what is happening here?
But what became apparent was that they had just avoided a zombie. So they just driven off, and there was this guy in the middle of the road, like kind of on the driver's side, the right side of the road,
I mean, he was in the middle of the road. Yeah.
but blocking any traffic.
Yeah.
And he was just stumbling around like a zombie, and then his eyes locked on mine through the windshield. I mean, we were ways apart, but he locked on. It gave me chills.
Well, it was about a car length because the truck, we'd pulled up right behind the truck.
Okay.
Like, why did this person stop? And then they screamed off through the yard, and then the guy was standing
Yeah.
that car length away.
Yeah.
And he locked eyes on you, and he was totally like shuffling. But
the zombie walk.
the zombie walk. But he saw you, and you were driving.
Yeah.
And
He wanted to kill me.
he was going to get you.
So I was like, okay, I'm gonna drive around you guys. So I started like driving to the left, and he stumbled to the left. I was like, okay, I'll drive to the right, and he stumbled to the right. And we're getting real close to each other, and I'm like, holy shit.
You were sort of like threatening, this is a car, I'm driving a car.
Yeah.
And like no concern about.
I think I backed up a little bit.
Yeah, at one point you backed up.
Reverse.
Yeah.
I threw it in reverse to get a little more space from him. And he still kept coming at us. So he was dead onto the car, eyes locked on me with this look of hate and murder. I mean, it gives me chills even thinking about it now.
I have never seen.
It was insane.
I literally in my whole life, that's the only time I've seen that look in somebody's eyes.
It was for real.
It was for real.
So what I did, and you didn't know this because I was just like, I made this plan in the spur of the moment. So I backed up a little bit. I started accelerating toward him, and I did not give away which direction I was going. I was just like accelerating straight toward this dude like I was going to run him over, and at the last minute I swerved left.
You did like a juke move, like you juked him. You went like. But
Did I fake him out?
You faked him out. Like you went like I'm going here, and he was like stumbling over there, and then you were like.
Oh, that's right. Because I knew he was going to follow me, so I like went right for a little bit, and then I was like, "No, I'm going left," and I went sped around him.
Yeah,
he was within feet of the windshield.
Oh, yeah. Like I think at one point he had at least one hand on the car.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and then we just went and did the gig.
That was the weirdest thing.
It was the weirdest thing. I get what possible explanation.
I mean, what we're guessing is bath salts because that was a big thing at the time.
It was. That was some elaborate practical joke, like weird.
I can't imagine because he was risking killing himself.
That look in his eyes was like, you hear about.
He got close. I mean, I was afraid of him breaking in any window that he got close enough to get to.
And I thought when you finally did juke him, I was like, oh. He
didn't care about being run over.
No, did not.
He did not try to get out of the way.
It was, and you handled it as well as anybody could. Colorado Springs.
I remember we played at the Tomato Festival. Do you remember that?
Oh my gosh, yeah, the Tomato Festival. I totally forgot about that. We had like a crazy weekend because it
was the fourth gig of the weekend.
Yeah, we played like 4 gigs and
so three 4-hour gigs.
Yeah,
and this was the fourth one.
And it was like we were in the afternoon, but it was a festival. And what the Tomato Festival is, they take all these tomatoes that are unsellable because they're
beginning to rot.
They're past their prime and whatever. And they get tons of these tomatoes, and people just have a huge food fight with rotten tomatoes.
Yeah. It was at Dave's Sporting Goods Park.
Right, it was. Yeah. It was
pretty big place.
Huge place. And so we're playing, and as we're playing, we're just watching people have a epic food war with slightly rotten tomatoes.
It was kind of stinky.
It was pretty stinky. The smell was. unbelievable. But people are just like running sorties, like these group up and like run in and they're like pegging people with tomatoes and then they get run back the other way and we're just like,
we're gonna play our Rihanna here.
Yeah, the tomato festival, that was amazing. Remember Canyon City?
Yes.
It was right after they had a really bad forest fire, and we thought they were gonna. Surely they're gonna.
You know?
Yeah, it was during. Surely they're gonna cancel this, but they didn't. The horizon was just like you couldn't see anything.
It was red.
Red,
it was
blood
so
red.
Smoky, yeah.
Yeah, it was so smoky. And I remember getting back, and we used to carpool all the time. I remember getting back to my apartment and being like, everything I own smells like I was at a campfire. Yeah, that was a wild one.
I remember when we played it wasn't exactly a wake, but it was a celebration of life. It was in the winter. It was freezing, but they had a tent with some heaters that we played in. It was at this gorgeous place.
Way up in the mountains.
Way up in the mountains, an Eagle or Vale or something
yeah.
there. The main thing I remember from that is I had a little too much to drink, and they had these little like temporary like lights along the driveway path, and I ran 3 or 4 of them over.
I don't think I knew
At the end of the night, I don't think I ever told anybody.
No, I can beat you on that gig
really?
Because I didn't know it was a celebration of life or anything like that. I didn't know what the gig was. People just tell me where to show up, and I show up. And we're on a break, and I'm talking to some guy, like not on purpose, but just we're on a break, and some guy comes up and he's talking, and he's like, so anyway, how do you know...
The guy who died?
The guy who died. And I was like, oh, I don't, but I'm really looking forward to meeting him. And the guy gives me this look like... Because like the way he said it, it was clear that his... property or whatever.
Oh no.
So I was like, oh, I haven't, but I'm really looking forward to meeting him. Like, we're so glad to be here. Like, it's so cool of them to have us. And he was just like, and I think it was Rolf that was like, dude, like, that guy's dead. Like, we're playing Awake. And I was like, oh no. Oops. That we're talking about it sounds like we had a blast with UDT.
We did.
We did. We had so many good gigs. We would play the Ritz in Colorado Springs, and that would just be like people going nuts.
Yeah.
Herbs. Those gigs
Herbs was
Herbs.
The best. Actually, let's see. The Ritz in Colorado Springs, we would play a Friday and a Saturday, and they treated us great. We would have food and drink.
Oh, great food at that place. I forgot how
loved
good it
eating
was.
there.
Yeah.
But the only trouble there was that late night, they had like a downstairs room where they had a DJ.
Right.
And so the later the night got, the more people wanted to be downstairs with a DJ. And it was a completely different culture down there.
Yeah.
It was like
it was
different
an urban
people.
club.
Yeah.
You know.
And so our part of the club would kind of just fizzle out.
Except for they would close that place down early.
Oh yeah, and we
and then
played
that
past
whole
that.
Crowd would come up. Herbs downtown.
That was the best. I loved playing at Herbs. That was so packed.
Just packed, dancing. There's this phenomenon of women really wanting to get on stage and make an announcement. They always want to get up and they don't want to sing. They want to like make an announcement to the crowd, but they just really need to get on the microphone. All like almost the exact same height and weight. Like there's a very specific build.
Really?
That really wants to get on stage. I would be like literally like playing with one hand and like straight arming people off the stage. Like, no, you can't get up here. And then I originally started just guarding the stage while we took breaks to keep people from getting on the microphones. And then I eventually...
Did we not kill the mics during breaks?
We would, but people would still get up there and like crash around like trying to talk on the microphones. And then finally what I did was I would take the mics down on breaks. Because people just felt like they just had to, and it's this specific woman who needs to get up and make an announcement, and it's always like, you guys, this night is the night, and you're, like it's always but they just really need to talk.
Isn't that where you met that?
I haven't only seen that at Herbs. I've seen that my entire career.
Didn't you meet a curly-haired little girl there that you dated once?
I don't love how you phrased that.
Well, she was young.
She was a little young.
You were probably about 40.
I was not. I was 35 at most.
You think? Was this 11 years ago?
Yeah, it was about 11 years ago, 10 or 11 years
I guess
ago.
it was. Oh my gosh. Okay. You're right. I will say I was jealous. Even though we weren't together.
We weren't together, yeah.
But I still was like, I hope she doesn't get him. I mean, you only dated her once or twice, but...
Yeah. And it was all above board. You got me on that one.
Sorry.
Man, I feel like that band, like, at its height, was really fun. Like, I think we had a period there where it was fresh.
We did stuff that was pretty new.
It was top 40, but it was not like your, like, Earth, Wind, and Fire's September or...
Then we did, like, Gautier, Somebody
Twist
I
and
Used
Shout.
to Know. And
and, like, whatever the
Selena
newest...
Gomez.
Rihanna
Yeah.
and Jason Derulo. And it was really current music, so it was a lot of fun because you were doing, like, new stuff. And, we did a good job of rotating out.
Avicii.
Yeah. But I feel like we had a sweet spot there where we were really doing some good shows. I mean, we really knocked some audiences,
and
knocked some over.
We worked a lot. It was a very busy band.
We really worked a lot. I mean, who knows how many shows in total, but, in the summer, sometimes it was definitely 12 shows a month.
I credit that band with giving me confidence on stage, honestly. Because that's the most number of hours singing lead I'd had to that point. I'd shared the stage as a one of two or one of three lead singers, but that was the first band where I was like 4 hours of mostly just me. I mean, Rolf would do a couple of leads, maybe one or two per set.
One or two
but the rest was up to me. And so I was working out stuff, like I was studying the Tom Jackson stage method stuff. And I would
That is worth saying. That's worth talking about.
Each gig, I would write on my set list the one skill that I was going to work on that night. Like tonight, I'm going to work on angles.
Right.
Tonight, I'm going to work on eye contact and audience zones. Tonight, I'm going to work on placement moving across the stage.
Yeah.
And I get to spend 4 hours in front of a live audience working on that thing. And so I just knocked them all down. I'd be like, I've got this list of things I need to work on. And I just kept knocking them down, And that band gave that to me.
You really transformed during that band. Mm-hmm. And it was, partially the performance side, but also partially just vocally. You were singing literally 3 hours a night.
And we had rehearsals every week, too.
Yeah. I would credit that with ultimately doing all that stuff helped me a lot as a producer because I had to learn to play a lot of music I wouldn't have played otherwise. And it helped me as a guitar player a lot because pet peeve, I really hate when guitar players are like, oh, I don't know what to play, there's no guitar on that song. Play something that fits. Or if there's not funk guitar on that song, but if there was, what would it do? Or pick out a keyboard line and learn the keyboard line and play the keyboard part. It's guitar and on the record it's synth, but it kind of really made me buckle down and practice, often show up to rehearsal and be like, yeah, let me hear it once. Yeah, okay, let's play it. Just that I would not overly prepare a fair amount of it. Yeah, they give me a chance to just really kind of expand some guitar stuff and Yeah,
there's not a lot of guitar in that era of pop music that we were covering. It was a lot of synth. So
right.
You had to find your place.
Find
I mean, that's not true for Journey when we would end the night with
the
Don't Stop Believin' every single time.
Oh my gosh. I still do not understand. People in Colorado love Journey, and it's a weird thing.
I got so good at Sweet Child of Mine. I can still sing the crap out of Sweet Child of Mine anytime you want.
Sweet Child of Mine, yeah. And
anyway.
Sweet Child of Mine was easy for me because that was I was just telling you, my first band was me and my best friend Wes and a drummer. Wes and I both played guitar, and there was drums, and we would play cover songs with just no vocals.
Two guitars and drums and no
Two guitars and drums and no bass and no vocals. And we would do the whole song. We wouldn't shorten where the vocals were. We would just play the verse with that.
People hear it anyway, right?
Yeah. And Sweet Child of Mine was something I was doing the whole Sweet Child of Mine when I was 13 or 14, 15. That was actually painful in UDT because I was like, I am so tired of this solo. It's brilliant, but oh my God.
Yeah. I would say the band, that's the only band that I've ever been inappropriately groped in. Not by any band members, to be clear.
Oh, yeah.
But we were out in bars late so much. Man, making my way to the restroom was always
Which
bit
is
of an
so
obstacle
gross.
course.
I mean, yeah, but it is true. That is, yeah. There were some rough and tumble times. I mean, there were the 3 times in a row that we went to Colorado Springs again. 3 gigs in a row, I saw someone get tased outside of
Oh my gosh.
because they would just kick everyone out of all the bars downtown, and it was like kind of nowhere to go, but they just kick everybody out, and there'd just be cops walking around. Yeah, let's give it a good 30 minutes before we load out. But a great experience. Lots of fun. Learned a lot.
I got some experience playing bass.
Yeah,
Keystone.
well, that band traveled a fair amount. You know, Snake River Saloon, it wasn't until years later, and you took me camping, that I actually saw some of Colorado, because we traveled with that band. I never saw any of it because you were so often driving at night. I'd been all these places, but I hadn't, like, seen any of the mountains and stuff because it was always dark. Yeah, that was Urban Dance Theory, pop band. Like, met some lifelong people. You know, Rolf, Tyler, our number 1 guy. Yeah. I'm always going to say that. We don't see him as much as we should. We are going to keep talking about all the bands we've been in together.
Yeah.
We're going to do some...
That'll cover a few weeks of us being on vacation. We'll see you guys next week.
All right. Bye.